Nerdarchy, Foreign Arts, Bine Arts, and today I have Nate Taylor with me from Dwarven Forge. He's rocking that awesome mohawk.
Yeah.
Uh, Matter of fact, that's what made you stand out to me when we were at Origins. And I seen you setting things up with the production stuff over in the D&D area where D&D Beyond was streaming from. And I think I stole a chair from you or something. I'm like, hey, that's an awesome mohawk.
Yeah, I used to have long hair for ages, right? I started growing it when I was little, hippie parents and all. And then I finally, I don't know, I hit 29 or something and I got tired of having long hair and I shaved it all down. And then I wear combat boots every day and like military BDUs and stuff. So everybody thought I was a skinhead. The whole look, so I grew the mohawk to kind of take the edge off.
Okay, yeah.
It'll be a little more accessible looking.
Yeah, that is an unfortunate side effect of that style.
Yeah.
I know there's plenty of loving, decent folk that like to rock the skin on top, but aren't actually skinheads.
Most, in fact, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Sure.
we're both fresh out of Gen Con.
Whew.
So,
Got to be the other side of that.
what was your Gen Con like?
It was really, really, really intense. So we have this Kickstarter going on. We're in our today. We have 1 week from today until this thing ends. So sorry, I just got the light on. Where's the?
Yeah, you guys like Kickstarter like funded like immediately. I think it like started at $1 million or something ridiculous.
Nice. Yeah, we hit our funding goal in 4 minutes, 100 grand in 4 minutes, and now we're cruising along to Cabbage Deep. So we had an active Kickstarter going while having an active booth, and so the conjunction of those two things, it was in years past, the creative team had never managed the booth, so this was the first year the creative team was managing the booth. So Nina was masterminding it and had this huge. We had a 20-foot long build out of everything from the city to the sewers to the castles to the mountains to our new prototypes at Jade Temple of Sassul to the wilderness. I mean, so we had a huge 20-foot building and then another temple built on the other side. And so we generated an enormous amount of traffic. So suddenly, instead of it just sort of being a quiet booth, we had a nonstop onslaught of random people who were backers, or just, I don't know where everybody came from, but it was sort of a nonstop deluge of humanity rolling in out of the booth, on top of trying to manage to keep the Kickstarter going. On top of, we had, I don't know, 4 live streams to do. So it was just a relentless assault, and then you're not sleeping well, and you're not eating well, and you're on your feet all day and whatever. So it was really it was like our personal Vietnam or something, except that we won. So maybe it was like a better, I don't know, a better war analogy. What do you got one for me? What's a
So I'm actually kind of curious because you sound a little bit surprised that it was so busy. It's like you guys set something on fire in the middle of the room, and like I can't believe they came to look. Come on, let's face it. Like I personally don't play with a lot of terrain in my own games, but I still love to look at it, and I would like I'm kind of a minimalist GM, so.
yes?
But at the other end, I'd be like, I love to play in that game. I just don't want to set up all that stuff. And it's always awesome to look at. So you basically create this like major attraction booth. Of course, you're going to be busy the whole time, and people are going to ask questions, and then they're standing there looking at your stuff. So you probably feel like you got to talk to them.
You got to. And we have a Kickstarter going. We want to get them to come in and check it out and whatever. And so, yeah, I guess we just didn't expect the volume of people that we had, just based on sort of years past and whatever. We've never had a live Kickstarter during Gen Con. So I think that also generated extra appeal. And we don't think we ever had as epic, we've never had as epic a setup. And we've never, I don't know, we're for whatever reason, it was a swarm, which was great. Other than it was a swarm.
Yeah, well, you guys released in Origins, like that's when you unveiled what the Kickstarter was going to be during one of the games.
And we didn't have a booth there, right? So that was just fly in, set up, run a game, go home. This was a whole nother, this was fly in on Monday, figure out what we've got in a storage locker, build out a booth, populate it, and then do 4 live streams and have field all the questions and run a booth and whatever. So it was definitely a stretch that but our team are all seasoned warriors, so they held up and slew the enemy.
So, speaking of the team, how big is the team?
We have been growing and growing. We have our core team in the office here. We have Nina, Aaron, Toby, Janet, and Selena, sort of our core team. And then we have a bunch of we have some remote sculptors. We have Eli and Michelle and Drew and Boris and Todd, who are remote sculptors. We have our freelance team that we brought in our freelance video team. We had Sauce and Lucas and Dennis, and we have freelance painters, Hamster and Alternate, and then we've got concept artists in Spain, Felipe, and who else? Who else do we have on the same team? Then when there's all the support, we have our web mistress, Johanna. We have during the Kickstarter, we have Jeff and Jenny are in the comments. We have 24/7. We have somebody in the comments, and we have Chuck, our customer service guy, Jay and Stefan. Oh, what am I forgetting? Our web mistress, yeah.
That's always the problem in naming people. You're like, I'm gonna forget somebody.
Oh, yeah, I always inevitably forget somebody. We have Teos does some stats for us, and I don't know. We have Todd. I got Todd and Boris. It's kind of an amorphous team and Momo, our mascot.
So, at Origins, you ran the game for the Unveil. Which system did you run it in? Which edition?
5th edition.
Okay, cool. Because Stefan still plays AD&D, right?
Yeah. Well, he plays homebrew AD&D. It's sort of AD&D took away as many of the rules as you could and added skill checks and added. I don't know. He's sort of.
That is the only way you can actually play AD&D anyway.
Yeah, it's not the lightest system.
It's designed for that.
Or balanced.
Is that your preferred game at the moment?
I love 5th edition. I don't know. What do you play? What's
5e? We play a lot of 5e. I mean, we've got thousands of videos talking about it. So
I feel like it's kind of really hit its stride. So the mechanics 3.5 hit the peak of let's get the most comprehensive set of mechanics and the most possible ways you can min and max and do whatever. And then I think with 5th we finally sort of got this perfect mixture of role play and mechanics. It's just the right amount of mechanics to not get in the way of story and all the right stuff to sort of encourage great collaborative storytelling. It's pretty easy to pick up, and I think it's got tons of player options. It's smooth to run. It's I don't know. I love it. I feel like it's really they hit their stride, and it does everything I want in an RPG.
It's the right mix. So when it comes to running games, have you always been very visual as far as using terrain and layouts?
I was always a theater of the mind guy, because I could never, train was too expensive or too time consuming or both. And I was always running, we were, as kids, I started playing D&D at 8 or something. So you don't have any, you're lucky to have graph paper.
Are you saying 8-year-olds aren't rocking a full set of Dwarven Forge?
Yeah, it was hard to find polyhedrals then, right? You had to color it in with a crayon and stuff. And the drill. Then I started LARPing when I was 14, and that kind of took over a lot of I played very little tabletop for I don't know a good 15 or 20 years there, because it was just it was hard to compete the thrill of being in the woods with anywhere from 100 to 300 people all in armor, all fighting at 1 a.m. It was just so sort of visceral and emotional and intense and whatnot. It was really that's sort of a majority of my gaming was that. And then I circled back to tabletop when it was harder, as I started to get older, and it's harder to make it to all these events and keep up with whatever. And I rediscovered the wonder of tabletop, where you can do stuff. LARPing, you can't fly, you can't turn invisible, you can't fight a 50-foot giant, you can't ride on the back of a dragon. There's all this, there's all this stuff you can't do because you can't actually rep it. So I found that it was more, there's magic in tabletop that I'd forgotten about. that have been overshadowed by the the visceral nature of actually being in costume and character in armor hitting people. And
Our
so
table,
you what?
our table was completely split when it came to LARPing and tabletop gaming. It was a hard line in the sand.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
there
like
wasn't a
the
lot of crossover. There was no.
well, no, that's what I'm saying. At our table, there was like 50-50 people LARP, people D&D. But like we were kind of hardcore no on the LARP. That was like a level of nerdery we weren't ready to cross into.
Too nerdy, you drew the line. There's like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So
where's the nerd threshold? I didn't know there was like.
well, and it was back in the 80s,
Yeah.
80, late 80s, early 90s. We were all kind of a-holes too to begin with. And so one of the sayings that came from the LARPers was "good idea, bad roll." So the counter to that was the dice no.
The dice never lie. Well, except the DM does.
Well, that's true. Well, it depends on your DM. I roll all my dice out in the open, and what happens happens.
So all these years of LARPing made me appreciate good props, because a lot of live action stuff revolves around props or something physical and tangible, whatever. So that kind of paved the way for terrain and sort of nonsense props in my games, because it was just, I don't know, anything to create a reaction or create something tangible that you can interact with, create a vision for you, helps make that tabletop a little more immersive, right? Because that's the thing about LARPing is it's immersive. You are in the woods, you're out there for 48 hours. There's the sounds, the smells, the exhaustion, all that stuff is very real. So trying to port some of that into the tabletop, I think a lot of this physical stuff helps, right? Seeing this stuff gets you kind of excited and feel like you're in the cave, even if you're not.
Oh yeah, I mean it looks so good. So James Leslie actually has a really good question. First, congrats on the Kickstarter funding. Secondly, love Dwarven Forge, but there's a ton of pieces. Have you folks talked about designing a carry case for the mobile DM?
We've talked about it. Talking and executing are two different ball games. What we dream of, we have these. We have a name right here. We have these terrain trays that we came out with last year, which are basically 1 foot square metal plates that have a neoprene cover on them. So and they have printed, one side will be like lava and the other side could be stone or whatever. And all of our new pieces have magnets in them, so they stick to the terrain trays. So what I dream of is having a thing where we can slide in. You can pre-build on your terrain trays, slide them into the carry case, like sort of stack up your various rooms, seal it up, roll it there, pop it open, and then you can slide out your rooms one at a time as you discover them.
That would get heavy quick though, wouldn't it?
Yeah, we have wheels. It's not.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you would not carry it. It would definitely.
It's like trying to carry around a mechanics toolbox.
Yeah. It's probably heavier. I don't know, but it would be debilitatingly heavy. But you could, if you had wheels and a handle, and then we make it look like a treasure chest or something cool.
Jose Sorez wants to know: do you guys have a boat ship in your product line?
A boat ship. We have a modular boat ship. We have a I don't know, it's going right here. All of our stuff just came back from Gen Con, so it's all willy nilly. But we have a rowboat that can fit a party of 6 brave or dumb adventurers, and then it has pull accessory holes so you can put stuff on it, like a tiller or a crossbow or whatever. And then it breaks apart, and you can slot in a middle section to make it longer and longer, or you could put 2 prows together to make it more Viking shaped or whatever. I actually don't have it in front of me, but you can see it on the Kickstarter. It's in Encounter 9, the Smuggler's Cove.
Do you have tips and tricks for running with terrain? Like, I know watching Critical Role, I like the way Matt has everything done and just pulls out the set piece, kind of like what you're talking about, the plate. And be like, boom, this is what you guys see, and puts the minis on, and it kind of has it off to the side.
But there's 2 ways. There's a couple of ways you can do it. One is the sort of the reveal method, right, where you pre-build as much as you can and then reveal it as the players go, either by flying it in or covering it with cloth and unveiling it, or covering it with cardboard like Mercer does or whatever. That's what most people tend to do. But this other crazy thing you can do is you can you can describe the room or what it is, and then dump a bunch of pieces on the table and have your players build it like on the fly. I've never actually tried this, but a bunch of people talked about it, and it sounds really fun. Like get everybody sort of involved in building out the room. It's like Dungeon Worldy, where it becomes this collaborative venture.
That's actually an interesting idea. I feel like it'll break immersion, but people say that like it's a bad thing because really, ultimately, what are we trying to do? We're having fun. So
it's fun. Building this stuff's fun, and get everybody. And then you don't have to prep, right? You just need a bucket of stuff, and you throw it out there, and you gotta like build the room. And then the players are building their own demise, right? When they, when they build this room with the table thing, and that's what kills them. That was, they built it.
It's it's always interesting to see how people do different things. Like we had a GM that would like incorporate a lot of trivia stuff into the game, right? And there would be like in-game rewards for knowing that. Some people love it, some people hate it.
Like, what's the airspeed of an unladen swallow?
Yeah. Like we were playing Star Wars I think in a particular game,
so
a lot of
endless well of trivia that can be dredged up for that.
Yeah. So again, of course, obviously, like if you're like, oh no, we must be immersed the whole time, well, then that kind of play kind of stinks for you because that's very immersion breaking. And then I feel the same way with the bucket of pieces. But that being said, some people just enjoy the mini games in the game, and then, so there isn't really a right or wrong way. It's just what works for your group.
And to me, the immersion stems from the story, right? It's like if the story's great, you can be immersed no matter what the environment is, what's going on. You could be playing in a Starbucks, and if the story's riveting, like you're in there and you're in it, it's alive in your mind's eye and stuff. So I think it's whatever's going to further your story and make it stronger will then hopefully be helping you create the immersion for you. I just realized, circling back to the boat, the important thing I should point out about this Kickstarter is all of our encounters are built a la carte, so you can buy just that boat from that encounter. You don't have to buy a $400 encounter to get the boat. You can buy just the boat as a pack itself. So for that guy looking for a ship boat, we you can go pick just that ship boat. And we also have docks that you can go within, whatever. We really tried to let people cherry pick the stuff that they wanted.
But it won't hurt your feelings if they buy everything.
I'd be okay with that. I mean, absolutely okay with that. If they came for the boat and they stayed for everything.
So what is your role within Dwarven Forge?
I am the creative director, which is a wonderfully amorphous title. For Caverns Deep, I essentially concepted the actual Caverns Deep, right? What are these 15 encounters going to be? And drive the team in collaboratively figuring out, okay, if we're going to have some sort of entry thing or going to have some sort of suspension bridge thing, what are these things going to feel like? What are they going to do? What are the emotions of this bit? Like, it's a super collaborative environment, right? It's very much like a film set where we have sort of all these departments that are working together and tossing ideas, and everybody's kind of working on, helping this, helping that, helping whatever. So I kind of drive and facilitate that cross collaboration and get everybody all going in the same direction on the boat ship.
Now you have a highly talented team working with you.
The highest.
So do you ever come up with an idea and be like, I don't know if this is feasible? It's not my problem. Figure it out.
No, but what we do all the time is throw out crazy ideas that may or may not be feasible and say, is there a way, can we crack this or whatever? We throw out a lot of bad ideas. I throw out a lot of terrible ideas, and it's really valuable to have a strong sounding board. So it's the opposite of like George Lucas with the prequels, right? He was surrounded by a bunch of idiots who just said, yeah, George, it's brilliant. We'll figure it out. And that's how we ended up with the prequels. Here we have everybody's challenging all of the ideas. Like, how do we make this stronger? Is this going to work? Is this cool? Is this something I want to see on my table and whatnot? So we have a really, nobody's afraid to say, no, that's not going to work.
Because I know, because I also have to direct people for different things sometimes. And sometimes I'm like, let me just give it to them kind of vague and see what they do with it. Because I'm just curious.
What I like to do as much as I can is give them a mission, but without telling you how to do it, right? Say, hey, we want to accomplish this thing, needs to feel dangerous. And then Nina figures out how to make floating driftstones feel dangerous. And rather than say, I don't know, it needs to have a bunch of spikes, and then it would be stupid. So they, let everybody be creative and bring all of their ideas to the table and figure out how to make the thing feel dangerous. And next thing you know, floating driftstone has got cracks and things and veins, and it looks dangerous and better than my initial idea.
No, I like that, and that works because it's not what it looks like doesn't actually even matter. What matters is that theme or that feeling you're trying to convey.
Yeah. Does it work with the rest of these things? Does it further this emotion? So we like one of the earliest things we did in this project was try to figure out our guiding principles of what it feels like. Right? It's dark, it's claustrophobic, it's wet, it's dangerous. We had all these sort of things. So we had these guiding adjectives and feelings that were there. Everything. As you're working, you keep going back to that. Does this feel like it's hitting those guiding principles?
So we had a couple of questions coming in, so I'm gonna jump to these real quick.
Yeah.
So EA says, wants to know, for Nate, will the Ice and Underdoom sets get support in the future, or are they one-off?
So yes, hopefully we. Who knows what big picture? We don't exactly 100% know what the future holds. Like we're just trying to get through this Kickstarter right now. But in this Kickstarter, we're going to have support for both of those systems. So we have 3 different. I don't think we have any ice up here. Or no. Hold on.
So keep the kind of questions coming, folks. Why Nate goes and grabs something. Like he said, they're just getting back from Gen Con, so they have their stuff scattered throughout the Dwarven Forge stronghold.
So we've got 3 different sort of core themes in this Kickstarter. So we have our standard stone theme. Let's see more lights.
People might be zooming in on your whiteboard too. Yeah. I don't know if there's anything.
Okay. It's all this stuff isn't really fine. So we have this is the Stairway to Violence top. Here's the whole kit caboodle. I don't know if it'll even fit. So we have this massive showpiece that's a 2-part thing.
Yeah.
So this is Stairway to Violence in regular scheme. We also have this in ice scheme, right? The same thing, but with cool, drippy, awesome ice. And then we also have it in our Underdoom, Underdoom theme. So what we're, and we have a bunch of sets sort of in each theme, but what we're going to do is we're going to unlock the starter cavern in all 3 themes if all goes well, and probably in the floor pack as well. So I don't know, there's going to be 20 or 22 different Underdoom sets you can pick from, and 10 or 12 different ice sets you can pick from. So it'll be a pretty big offering to date, and then down the line, we want to keep sort of expanding everything.
That stuff looks so good.
We have an unbelievable creative team that really, that works from concept through to sculpt through to paint. Like every millimeter is driven with passion, right? We care about every tiny piece of this thing. Everything is hand sculpted, it's hand painted. Like there's nothing, no copy and paste, no nothing. This is all, good old fashioned analog creation.
So George Graybill wants to know, any chance we'll see the starter cavern set, either the ice or Underdoom paint schemes during the Kickstarter?
Yes, 100%.
So now I'm not as familiar. Everything, does it come painted already, or?
We offer, that's one of the many things that makes it special is we offer the stuff unpainted and hand painted. So like many of us, there, I don't know how many unpainted miniatures you have staring at you from the corners of your game room there, but most of us don't have time to paint everything that we get. I certainly don't. So we have everything hand painted or unpainted. If you want to paint it yourself, and a lot of people do these amazing paint jobs or copy the factory of whatever you can, and it's cheaper, or you can get it hand painted, and it makes a difference of something like this. Of course, when it's some people don't have the time or the talent to try and figure out how to make this thing look amazing, and would be getting a 6x6 unpainted tile like this might be overwhelming. So we paint it for you.
What seems to be more popular, painted or unpainted?
Painted by far.
Yeah. I can definitely see that. I mean, there's a lot of people that do painting, but to do it to that level And you're making a significant investment too. So
Well, and it's you're not just painting one piece, right? It's not just painting like one mini. You're painting hundreds, if not thousands, of pieces to get enough coverage and enough whatever. So not everybody has the talent or the fortitude or the time or the desire or the whatever to do it. So it's really nice to be able to just get it out of the box. Boom! I got this thing and throw it on my table. I'm going to play with it. And off to the races. So this is actually speaking of paintings, and we have our team works really hard to make the paint book, fantastic. Aaron went through great pains to try and figure out an ice scheme that we could do using opaque pieces that looks like our old resin / better / shows off all the detail, whatever. We spent, she did a ton of passes to figure out what the underdoom was going to look like. Even the basic stone, we had an existing color scheme, but we wanted to see what we could improve upon to make it complementary, but even better than what we had previously. So there's an enormous amount of time, research, development, and artistry that goes into getting these paint schemes. So people are happy to buy that because we spend a lot of time to make it look awesome and get stuff like this.
Nice. So we have a question, and I'll also add a kind of addendum to this question. One, EA wants to know, will we see an Underdoom or ice paint set, Pagorni paint? And also someone asked about how-tos and tutorials for painting Dwarven Forge.
So no and yes. So we're probably not going to do any new paints right now. The paints aren't a big seller for us. It's hard to hit the minimum volume to make it worthwhile, which is a shame because we love the paints. They're a good value. They're a big they're a big box. They're like, what are these, $7, $10? I don't know. It's a huge bottle of paint. Just the right viscosity. Just all over me.
That is a big bottle of paint, but I guess you're paying big pieces.
Most mini bottles are like this. They're the size of a miniature. You want to cover a lot of ground, pun intended, because it's it's terrain. So we have a nice big bottle and love it. But it's if we start moving paint like crazy, yeah, we can keep expanding the line. We just added, what do we have? 2 new colors, a red and a blue, I think. We killed the red and the blue. We did silver and bronze or something. A couple of metallics we just added.
And now you guys also do can't talk. You guys also do tutorials as well.
Yeah, and we're a little behind on tutorials, but yes, we have some tutorials coming from for Dungeon of Doom, and then we'll do some tutorials for this stuff down the line. And those guys, Realm Smiths, are doing some tutorial videos of some sort of alternate paint schemes you can do with these things.
Those guys are everywhere, man.
They're amazing, right?
Jason's a good guy.
So solid.
And Origins, did you see their Beholder paint intakes?
It was amazing. Yeah. It was such a fun, and it was really interesting to see the array from fabulous to just eye-bleedingly horrendous that came out of that. It's really.
I will take credit for the eye-bleeding horrendous.
That was you, right?
Yeah. That was actually the first mini I've ever painted, to be honest with you. And so I decided to do it, somewhat live, and it was fun. I discovered I'm way heavy on paint and stuff, so it's really, if I had it my own way, I would just be dipping.
Bloop. Next. It's red. Next. Yeah, well, that's why we offer hand painted for just that very reason.
Listen, the next greatest invention next to sliced bread was when 3.5 they came out with pre-painted plastic minis.
Yeah,
I was in heaven. I was like, yes, I can put out nice looking minis. I don't have to do anything. Yeah,
pop it out of the box, put it on the table. Same idea for us. And we've been slowly expanding our minis line too, and we have a rumored minis Kickstarter at some point in our future, where we're going to have a bunch of pre-painted minis that we'll be selling on it as a smaller Kickstarter.
Okay, so people are starting to ask that very question: is do they do minis or is it just terrain? But it is just terrain right now, right?
No, we have some minis. We've got lizard men or lizard folk and town guard and kobolds, and we have a few. The Dungeon of Doom had a few minis in it, and this Caverns Deep has some minis embedded in. Some of the encounters will come with some specific minis that are designed. So what we did is we made 15 encounters, right? So each thing, instead of just selling you a box of walls, or a box of floors, we can sell you a box of adventure, right? So it's sort of a little pre-built room that has all the stuff you need to make that. It has, most likely we'll have a mini, and then we'll have a 5e and Pathfinder stats and the write-up for that thing. And then they all chain together in one long, crazy 15 encounter adventure that'll take you, 30 hours of gameplay or whatever to get through the whole.
Oh, that's awesome. That's a lot of added value. And once again, I open mouth, insert foot.
You what?
I said, once again, I open mouth, insert foot.
No, but that's all. This is we're trying to educate everyone how we're rolling this thing out. And of course, you don't have to buy the full pre-made encounters. You can cherry pick the stuff from those encounters. Like you can buy just the flashy bits as adventure packs. You can buy just the building blocks, the core packs. We have a bunch of additional add-on packs. We break them all up into smaller boxes, so you can buy just the small stuff, or you can buy these big bundles. And of course, the bigger the bundle you get, the cheaper you get a discount. The more you bundle it up.
So, Joran Drake wants to know: would you be interested in making figures for Tukumel? And I'm probably butchering the shit out of that word.
I don't even know what that is.
Tekumel, with the weird accent on top of the E. First E.
Because it wasn't hard enough to say, so you need to add an accent.
Yeah. So
you know what that is? That's out of my sphere of nerdiness. What is that?
I have no idea what it is. I'm gonna have to Google it at some point.
Make minis for it because we don't even know what it is.
Yeah. And also Brian Goslin had asked about like minis for like Cthulhu style settings. Also, that would actually be kind of cool if you guys did a Cthulhu-esque or otherworldly type terrain.
We've been sticking pretty tight to medieval fantasy, in that it's always been our best seller. We dabbled with sci-fi. It sold a little, but it hasn't. I don't know. It's hard. The stuff is expensive. It's a niche of a niche. So like, and I feel like the majority of players out there are playing D&D. So then going to a smaller subgame and trying to get this, I don't know.
Yeah, as soon as I open my mouth, I'm like, well, that's not actually practical. So, you need something that's versatile.
But stuff like our city builder set, you could make a bunch of stuff for Cthulhu with that. These caves, you could make a crazy, haunted, creepy cave to investigate in Cthulhu with. Like a lot of our stuff, our new woods, you could have an encounter in the woods in in a Cthulian encounter out here and whatever. Like I think there's a lot of the stuff is generic enough that you could use it with a little bit of dressing. You could use it sort of in almost any time period. Like you could do World War II wargaming on this stuff for sure. Same in the cave, same in whatever. Like a lot of it's generic enough that you could use it for a variety of settings and games.
So George wants to know, I have a ton of the old school resin sets. Will Dwarven Forge ever create more resin sets down the road?
Probably not. There's maybe we will, I don't know, not likely to be very many. We've sort of kicked a few ideas around, and maybe it'll happen at some point, but it's, from a financial perspective, it's the resin never sells as well as the Dwarvenite sort of new stuff. So it's, it's almost the same amount of effort for a thing that's going to sell a tenth as much. So it's tough. We're already a small company we're already, pushing the envelopes of what we can actually pull off. And so, it'd be tough to add more to the arsenal, but we'll see.
Yeah, I totally get that as a fellow small company. You're always trying to figure out what works and where to spend your efforts, for the most part.
Yeah. So there's stuff we'd like to do, but we just, I don't know. We don't have bandwidth. There's so much to do. It's hard to have enough bandwidth to get everything done that you'd love to do.
Jason wants to know, what settings will the Crystal Caverns LEDs have? Will they color shift on their own, or do you have to pick a static color?
So this will be a nice spoiler alert. I think we've kind of already spoiled it a bunch anyway. So we're hoping, I don't know what our funding level we're putting it at, but we we're gonna upgrade the electricals to. It has an RGB LED in there, and we're gonna upgrade the electricals to be remote control compatible, and hopefully offer a remote control so that then you can choose the color of your crystal. So you can click on the thing and make, all right, they're going to be red, they're going to be green, they're going to be blue, they could strobe through all the colors, whatever. So give people a whole bunch of options. Because especially those things are so, A, they look awesome, and B, they're so wildly specific. The more we can make them, maybe one week they're glowing green and it's kryptonite for some superhero game you're playing, or maybe the next week they're glowing red and they're in some demonic fortress, or maybe the players do something and they shift from blue to yellow, or whatnot. So we want to give people a lot of cool functionality in this.
So how do you go about when you're running? I'm going to shift gears a little bit. When you're running your games and using Dwarven Forge terrain, do you set it all up and do the uncover, or do you do Matt Mercer where you pull out pieces?
Question. It depends on how big it is and what the setup is, but I like to fly stuff in. It's fun to fly things in, especially on the terrain tray. Sort of build on the table. It also helps keep metagaming down a little bit. And I don't know, it's just fun, like revealing the next, flying the next thing on a platter and be like, here's what you see. Stefan loves to just pre-build everything and cover it with black cloth, and then do the great unveiling that way. But I like to do a kind of a 50-50 theater of the mind and terrain. Like there's things that you can do in theater of the mind that you can't do on terrain, and vice versa. So I like to, I kind of like in my my homebrew games or whatever, I do some of the faster stuff theater of mind, and then like the meaningful, the boss fight or the super tactical fight where they have to hold this thing and do this thing all at the same time. That stuff is terrain based, but depends on what you're trying to accomplish, what's going to further the story, what's going to be most fun for the players.
Yeah, it seems like we're pretty similar in the way we do things, because all of our games are theater of the mind when we play in person, and then a fight breaks out, and we'll bring out the minis and the grid, and like we might mark out a room with pencils. I mean, not drawing it. We literally just put a bunch of pencils on your. The people that are watching, if they're regulars, they've heard this story a million times. But one Halloween, we had leftover mini Kit Kats, so that forever became our building blocks of our rooms. And every once in a while, we get a new player, and they'd be like, "Oh, Kit Kats, I like those. Can I have one?" And I may have mentioned we were a-holes back then, and we'd be like, "Sure, go ahead." And occasionally they would open one and it wasn't discolored yet, even though it was 5 years old, and it was just classic, the expression on their face when they bit into it. Yeah, like, oh, by the way. So yeah, so like I said, we run a similar game. Matter of fact, you guys aren't that far from us. You're just up the turnpike. Yeah, you guys are just up the turnpike.
Yeah, you should. Once all the dust settles, come. We should play a game. You stream it or something, or I don't know.
Yeah, we could absolutely figure something out.
Yeah,
close enough for sure.
We have a bunch of terrain. I don't know. Is that useful?
Yeah, nice
stuff lying around. We have a big hardcore gaming team. So
nice. Do you guys have an in-office game?
Well, we've been playtesting we playtested the Dungeon of Doom module, and playtested sort of an alpha version of the Caverns Deep adventure, sort of before we built stuff. The idea was to kind of get a sense of what the whole thing would feel like and look like, and then so a lot of that was theater of the mind, or prototypes of foam mock-ups and whatever, see if it's going to kind of work and see what the sort of stuff we'd need to make that adventure exciting would be.
So yeah, that's great when you're playing D&D and it's work.
It's even better getting paid to play D&D. Like that's the
yeah, absolutely. Jason has a question. The Dead Hollow Trees modular with magnets or pegs, how sturdy are they?
Let me show you. We can find.
Oh, sorry. He's going to grab that for you guys so you can take a look. Give it the throw test maybe.
So, all right. So they're going to be super sturdy is the answer. So we're gonna have. So here's like a base example dread hollow piece. It's a 6 by 6 inch by 6 inch piece. You can see our team spent a really long time figuring out how to put the grid in there in an organic way. So you can see the roots and like this rock and this patch of dirt and this rock and this fern. So all the squares are delineated by all this organic stuff, and that was no small feat, right? So you've got this really cool organic look, but there's actually the grid is in there. It's a 6 by 6 grid, which I think is pretty spectacular. So we have the base tiles just have the stumps but no trees on them. So for a couple of reasons. One, if you're on a huge budget, or I mean on a tiny budget or a budget, you don't need to use the trees if you don't need them, right? You can play with this tile completely as is. These indicate where the trees are, blocks your line of sight, blocks your movement, but you don't actually need the tree. Two, if you do have the trees and you want to get in there some crazy mini combat, you can pop the trees off so you get in there and do your tactical combat if they're in the way. And once again, the stump tells you exactly where the thing is. And three, our trees are modular, so you can then build the trees that you're excited about, or it can be as tall or as short as you want, and we'll have different options. And as we go, if we do more wilderness, which we will, there'll be swamp trees, there'll be whatever, and you can swap them out on the lake. So the core concept is each of the stumps is going to have a hole in the center, and then we'll have a bunch of different tree pieces that will have a rigid metal peg in them, very similar to how we did our city builder system, which they're very sturdy. So they'll slot right in, boom, like such. And then we'll have upper sections of the tree will be like this, where it's all sculpted, hand sculpted leaves, no flocking, all beautiful sculpted and painted leaves. And then they'll have baked in branches underneath, which will then terminate in a peg and same on the top. So then you'll be able to just stack this on there and then keep going. I think I have I don't know where the top piece is. We'll have a top piece this one doesn't have the thing or whatever, but you can sort of, you can keep building up and out, and this is why there'll be like pieces, and you can make them bigger and wider and whatever. But next thing you know, you've got a tree. But you could, if you want, you could take it out. It could be like a really weird, low, stumpy tree. You could,
or even a bush.
It could be a shrubbery. So where you can swap the order. You can swap the order of them so they'll look different. You could take the topper from small trees and put a small topper on the thing. But they'll be when it's all said and done, they'll fit together very very firmly. Oh, here's the top piece without the branch out. So this thing is going to be, it'll all be one piece, but it's like, I don't know, it's something good. So you have a topper that'll fit like that or something. Yeah, it'll be and then you can, for storage, you can pop them apart and store them in chunks, or you can store them standing up or whatnot, so that storage with this stuff is always an issue because it's a lot of stuff and it takes up a lot of volume and whatever. But yeah, it'll be a super sturdy, super beautiful, wonderful modular little system.
That looks great. They look amazing. So we got a handful of questions.
Right? They're not gonna get that annoying green snow everywhere.
There's a couple questions coming in. Any plans to go to PAX Unplugged this year? Didn't know you were so close by.
We were supposed to go last year. We had a booth, and we gave it up like 2 weeks before because we were in the middle of a sculpting sprint for this. We were breaking clay for this. We started a year ago, like last August. I was doing sketches, and we'd broken clay in October, and we're sculpting like maniacs. Because it's a lot hand sculpting all this stuff. It's an enormous amount of time with our talented artists to get all these pieces, especially some of these, like these tree tiles. These are enormous, the amount of labor to sculpt every little leaf and twig and critter and rock, or it's a lot of time.
So I'm going to merge Jack Walsh, James Leslie, and Joe Parcelli's questions together.
The Franken question.
It's a Franken question, right? So they want to know if they'll come in other colors, like if you wanted to do fall. What about dead trees without any leaves at all, or evergreens, or even evil trents?
Wait, these are all things we've discussed. We'll see. We'll see how funding goes and what happens if we blow this thing through the roof. That could very well be an autumnal scheme, but we'd have to hit like 4 million or something. There's definitely down the line there'll be expansions and there'll be whatever we have. We'll probably have one crazy creepy tree with this entrance piece that's here somewhere. But yeah, the sky's the limit, and that's also part of the fun with the modular tree systems, right? We can just start with deciduous, and then next year we can add conifers and swamp trees and whatever. There's a lot of stuff. We won't roll everything out all at once. This is kind of, we wanted to do a proof of concept on the forest, do a limited amount of pieces, see how it all works. Just, I don't know.
Plus,
before we commit to 9 different types of trees, like just get one that works and make sure it's great. And
I imagine, like, if you roll out too many at once, obviously it's a lot of work to do each sculpt on every single one, and then you're kind of like splitting your audience by giving them all these choices. So it'll be hard to pay for them all. If you unveil one at a time, people go, "Oh, I like that," and they'll either buy it or they won't.
Yeah, and then next year they can buy some more and some more. I mean, it's a lot. Like, look at all those leaves. It's a lot of time to create that thing.
I feel like building your Dwarven Forge campaign or all your collection, I should say, is a lifelong journey.
Gradual, right? You don't need to start by buying $10,000 worth of stuff. I mean, you certainly can. We're not going to stop you, but like, buy a couple $100 worth of a thing now. Like, buy just a simple cavern or some dungeon, whatever, and you can add each year. You can add a couple more things. The next thing you know, I have an empire.
Do you know?
Yeah.
Do you know what the biggest order you guys have ever received? Like a single order?
We've had some staggering orders. We have a few really, really huge. There's the world famous Ryan Devoto, known as Sorn, who lives down in DC, who has this giant basement that has like epic amounts of, he's got full cities and forests and castles and stuff like that. He's up there, and we have a guy in New Zealand. We have a couple of like people that are just off the charts. It's pretty intense.
Nice.
It's nuts.
I would love to there's some people that like set up for Christmas, right? And they just do these amazing displays all over their houses and their yards, and including like mini villages and stuff like that. I would love to do, like, if I had like unlimited resources.
Christmas scene, like.
Yeah, not necessarily Christmas, but just like if I had unlimited resources for where I've worked with some really affluent and wealthy people over the years where they've got like, oh, here's like an extra garage for just all their toys, being cars and boats. I would love to do that with just like a Dwarven Forge setup. It'd be like this, and then this way you can have every kind of setting you possibly would need.
It just flows from the castle to the village to the sewers to the dungeon to the cave, hellscape to the whatever. Yeah, I dream of that too, having the space and the time and the whatnot.
The whatnot. It's always all about the whatnot.
The whatnot. Circling back to the trees, the other reason not for us to not do a whole bunch of different trees right now is fundamentally for gameplay, the flavor of the tree is irrelevant, right? Like if we had the choice, like the purpose of this terrain is for your game, and if we burn all our sculpts doing stuff that's just dressing, it leaves less sculpts that actually impact gameplay. So I would rather use those sculpts on things that affect your game mechanics and the like than just dressing, right? Similarly, when we did the city, we only did 2 types of roofs. Yes, it's great. It would be great to have 9 different types of roofs, but they're just dressing, right? They're not actually affecting your gameplay or your mechanics or the like. They're purely decorative, and aesthetics are important and the decorative is important, but it's also, we want these things to be usable and useful and actually improve and impact your game. So not too much decorative if we can help.
That makes sense. I mean, you guys are juggling a lot of different needs, and it's a matter of figuring out which are the most relevant. Like I said, even as I had asked the question earlier, I'm like, that's not very practical, even if it is cool. Yeah, so you guys have to figure out what's going to be cool, what's going to be practical, and what's going to be versatile.
And what's going to be usable, right? We do these big brainstorm sessions where the whole team will throw out ideas of like, what sort of things would you find in an uncivilized, savage layer underground, wherever. And we come up with a list of 40 different things, but you can quickly narrow that down to like, what are the 3 things that are most common or be most useful, or you can interact with, or what are the things that are going to get on the game table the most. Like we made a really enormous list of all the things that happen in caverns and what it is, and then narrowed that down to what are the things that people are going to use a lot, because we want people to get the stuff out and use it all the time.
So Joe wants to know what happens to your prototypes after the Kickstarter. Do you also have to purchase these items the same way we do?
We do. We pay for our prototypes or we make them. It's usually a mixture of the two. And we generally just store them in a dusty box, or boxes. And like we talked about, maybe, I don't know if people would be interested, maybe we do we auction them or give them out as a prize or something, like, get them into the hands of somebody who would be excited to have a bunch of these.
A collector.
Things. Yeah, because they're not 100% functional. They're not flawless and whatever. But those were the things, we spent a lot of time and energy and maybe even blood on these. Like there's almost everybody on this team has at some point cut themselves or bled on these things. I think Nina has a blood blade on her desk for the knife that sent her to the hospital. We have I was taking some wounds in the line of duty, so you might find some blood on a prototype if you're lucky.
Dwarven Forge artifacts.
Yeah.
EA says the Dwarven Forge Museum. Jack wants to know, with one of the advantages of roofs in City Builder was that you could put minis on them with ledges and magnets. Will this option exist? I guess he's talking about the trees.
Oh yeah, we've slated. We haven't built it yet, but we slated a little some sort of mini platform or something, so that you could pop off the top of your tree and put a little platform there, so you could rep having a mini in the tree. Which, yeah, like if you got them there, it would be fun to have it be a playable space. And then you could pop off your different segments. If they're only up this far, you could put it here, and sort of as they go up or down, you could raise or lower the segments and have them going up or down. Yes.
So what is the most involved Dwarven Forge set you've used in one of your games?
The most involved? Well, I ran a game at Gen Con on Friday that had all of our brand new wilderness prototypes. It was like almost a 3-foot by 3-foot coverage of everything. And it was literally right down to the wire, right? Like the paint was still drying. So Aaron was like painting till 1 a.m. Toby's trying to figure out how to get the treetops onto the thing, like right up down to the wire. It was a pretty cool setup and a crazy game. Right? We had a good lineup of players and an audience that was all fired up at 10 a.m. They were like hungry for blood.
Who played in that game?
That was we had Matt Mercer and Liam O'Brien from Critical Role. We had Joe Manganiello from himself, Satine Phoenix from Maze Arcana. We had Peter Atkinson from
Gen Con.
And we had Stefan. Is that everybody? I think. Yeah. So it was that unbelievable group of players at the table. So it was probably the most fun I've had in years. That 2 hours of running for those guys. Like
there's something special about getting a table where you have like all GMs, that come and want to play the game. It's the best.
On this terrain that no one in the world has played on this terrain before, right? They're the first people to venture into unknown territory in this sort of pretty ridiculous, wonderfully meta adventure. And it was really, and that's sort of a one shot where you can you don't have to care too much about what happens to your character or what, the consequences of your actions, whatever. So you can just sort of go all in and hit each other with fireballs and, they did more damage to each other, I think, than the monsters by the time.
That's perfect.
It's on Twitch. It's definitely a fun 2 hours of just nonsense.
We which Twitch channel can people find that on?
It was on the Gen Con. Is it official Gen Con or Gen Con official? It's twitch.tv/Gen Con official. We can put up a link or send you a link, or can you put a link on the show notes?
Yeah, we can.
Yeah, I'll send you a link in the show notes.
All right, cool. And I will, after this goes up, I will get that in the description, folks. So if it comes back later, or if it's easy to grab, James, Leslie, you're in the chat moderating. Feel free to grab that if you don't mind.
What was pretty neat. I mean, there's 1,000 things that are neat about it, but it was, the wilderness is like months and months and months. I mean, we were sketching stuff up a year ago, like months of work by the creative team to sort of get this together. So to be able to sort of launch it with such a celebrity-filled celebration of the work is pretty amazing. It was a real a testament to the team, what we were able to put together and then wow the world with.
So it looks like the stream just quit on us.
Oh no!
For no apparent reason. Let's see.
The,
OBS looks good over here for whatever reason, but actually on YouTube's end, no idea. Well, we were coming up on the hour anyway. But and
we're in conversation anyway.
Yeah, pretty much. No, not at all. Actually, I've enjoyed the conversation.
I love it.
I'm just going to end it. We were right around the hour mark anyway.
There we go. The mic dropped and out. Really.
Yeah. James did get the link in.